Hello.
Hi, hi, hi.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Great, we're at time. So welcome. This is June 19th. It's EMEA America's time delivery group. Scarbeck, super interested to see you as it's a US public holiday, but hi, good to see you. So as always, please have a quick scan through the upcoming out of office notifications so you get a sense of who is around. We have family and friends on Friday, so a bunch of people around are out around that date. Just as a reminder, hopefully this is actually relevant for you, Scarbeck. So there is a family and friends on Friday, but I will be around, so you can leave deployments running. And for anyone else, if you want to take an alternative day, you can do that. Whatever day you take, if you want to take a family and friends, please just stick it into the Slack app. And Alessio, you have the first discussion.
Thank you. So that's the thing. So the begin to deploy triggers are packaged immediately. So there's no longer need to set anything like the auto deploy tag latest feature flag or things like that. Basically, everything properly labeled get tagged in no more than 15 minutes. And so documentation is pending, but this is not the discussion thing. The discussion thing is the sub point, which is there is an interesting side effect of this thing, because basically now we are running a delayed check on packages before starting the rollout, which may actually allow us to repurpose the auto-deploy tag latest feature flag to experiment for a while, 1 week a time, couple of days, on tagging straight from master head. So instead of checking for a green pipeline on master, when it's time to create a package, we just say tag from top of master and create the auto-deploy branch from there. And then basically after 1 hour, we discover if we just wasted the package or not. This is just random idea because we have been discussing this in the past. There's idea running tests in parallels, and we were unsure about the real rate of not really flakiness, because flakiness can be fixed. You can rerun the pipeline, and if it's green, then the deployment can continue. This is more about the master stability. So it's kind of a real master stability experiment, which is how much the master instability will affect our auto deploy schedule if we choose to play this game and just blindly target things.
I'm curious, if we want to go that route, could we tag 2 different things at the same time? One would be the package like we do today, and the other would be that latest master SHA at that point in time. And the reason I say that is because if we do have a red master, we probably don't want to publish that or try to continue that down the line. But if we still tag the original one that does have the green pipeline, we can rely on, our existing procedures for that.
So the short answer is no. The long answer is yes, but we have to implement a lot of things compared to just flipping a feature flag and see how it goes, right? So this is more about, I was thinking about removing that feature flag when I was doing this work, and I say, let's keep it here for a while because it may still have a value, because maybe there will be reasons why I was trying to figure out why we wanted to tag directly from top of master. And I think that this behavior has always been a side effect of that implementation. So that feature flag was always designed to tag on top of the auto deploy branch. But because of the shared code between how do we generate auto deploy branches and how do we pick something for tagging, this feature flag always had the side effect that was the origin of why we decided to change this, that if you leave it on, the next time it generates an auto deploy branch, it will start using the wrong thing. And now it could be interesting to see if the wrong thing is really wrong, because there was an issue that has been repurposed into running tests in parallel for peek into auto deploys that was originally designed as, can we run tests in parallels for every package? And back then, Robert was trying to collect some numbers about the real level of flakiness. But I mean, it's probably 2 years old data, and it's completely different from what is happening today. But yeah.
What's the benefit of tagging from head?
So MTTP.
Is that our only benefit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It certainly sounds interesting. I think if it's a small test, we could try. Otherwise, I'd suggest let's try and get it into an issue. I guess my concern is the downside sounds like possibly more release manager work, because if we end up with packages we can't use, that feels kind of against our current OKRs.
Yeah, I will get back on this when we do the walkthrough, because I will explain, looking at the current month, why I was inspired by this experiment.
Cool.
With numbers would be easier to.
Awesome. Sounds good. And you passed over it quite quickly, Alessio, but I do want to kind of also point out to everyone else, like that change for the pick label is also going to be huge. And Graham, I hope you're watching this recording, because Graham in particular will get lots of benefits from this, because the schedule timing on the branches through APAC mean that the previous problems of the pick and the gap was much more common in APAC. It happens in every time zone, but it was particularly common in the APAC time zone. So yeah, super that we've got that improvement.
I have a question. Alessio, what do you mean exactly by a merge request properly labeled is going to be tagged in no more than 15 minutes? How are those 15 minutes calculated?
So because we used to have 3 timers, one for our branch creation, one for picking into auto deploy, and one for tagging, right? So we no longer have. So we have only one timer that runs every 15 minutes that is doing all those 3 things, one after each other. So every time it kicks in, it checks, is it time to create a new branch? Yes, no, and then eventually create it. After creating the branch, say, is there anything to pick in top of that? Yes, no, and then it picks. And then finally is tagging. And because one of the things that we have done here is that if it's, so at tagging time for GitLab only, so GitLab rates only, unless it failed, we can tag, because we are delaying the check. And that's the key part, right? Because in order to generate an auto deploy branch, we need a green pipeline. So we have this kind of baseline assumption that we are building on top that on the very basic level, if it's just auto deploy branch generation, was green. And so we had a full test run. And if it's a pick into auto deploy, we're just putting something on top of that was run in its own pipeline, that in theory was run on master branch as well. And so we are willing to parallelize and taking the risk here, because basically that's what is happening, right? So we know it will take 45 minutes or so to run the peek into auto deploy pipeline, and it will take more or less 1 hour to create the package. So we're taking the risk, we're tagging from unless it's already failed. If it's in any other state, we tag, and then we check the status of the pipeline right before promoting to the first environment, so deploying on the first environment. And so here's where we are saving 1 hour. We're saving 1 hour here. Then we are saving a lot of time by the fact that we only have one timer. So the worst case is 15 minutes from every action included in picking to deploy. And there's no longer the problem of I'm picking, but then 5 minutes later, I'm creating a new branch and then tagging 20 minutes later. Because this is what we had before. There was always a gap of 20 minutes between auto-deploy branch creation and the first tag, as well as the picking to deploy that you never know when it landed. And so basically right now we are removing 20 minutes always every time, then 45 minutes on every picking to deploy. So there's a lot of improvements in all the steps, and it's more linear. As soon as all of us learn how it works, it's much easier to think about what is happening when the auto deploy is running, because now it's just one thing that is doing all this step.
Yeah, thanks. Is that timer like configurable in some way, or is it like hard coded in the code?
I mean, the 15 minutes, it's just it's a schedule. It's a pipeline schedule. So we put something that was close to the numbers that we had. And basically the other thing is the configurable thing is on which UTC hour do you want to have a package? And this is always at the beginning of a shift. You have this thing about you can tweak the timings. It's no longer a timer. Now it's a timing. You can tweak the timing according to your shift so that it works for you. But now, so before it used to be the first, it runs on 5 p.m. and then it creates the package. Now it's more about every time it runs within the 5 p.m. So from 5:00 to 5:59, if that branch does not exist, create it.
Got it. Okay, cool, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? No? Awesome. Well, once this gets merged in, whoever merges, please share this documentation in the Slack channel, because I think Alessio said a really good point, which is once everyone has kind of wrapped their head around it, once we all understand this timeline and what's going on inside there, lots of other things will be more straightforward. So please do plan to spend a little bit of time trying to understand this and ask any questions if anything's not clear, because this is the beginning of all deployment and all release tasks that follow. Cool. Thanks for sharing that, Alessio. Are there any other discussion topics people want to cover? No. Okay, so over to release managers.
Okay, so if you don't mind, Jenny, I can take this one because I missed the last couple of times. So
yeah, sure, thanks.
Okay, so let me share my screen. So here it is, and here it is. Okay, so this has been an interesting week. Interesting because it started from the previous one, with the registry DB upgrade. So we were starting with a long, everything is blocked since Friday. And we have been experiencing a lot of embedding database issues. So we will see the numbers later. We don't have many incidents compared to the past, but several of them have been very long, 10 hours, 15 hours. So I think it's this one. And then we had similar problem the day after, and then something completely different, but still 5 hours after that. And so there are some interesting things. The first thing is that you can see what I call the Myra effect, which is when Myra was helping, basically the number of wasted package just dropped down immensely. I mean, it happened. So I like to think about this. But yeah, in any case, we have been doing other 2 patch releases this week as well. And there is something that was interesting, I think, here also. So we see the effect of not having Graham helping out during APAC time, because basically this day it's an interesting one. So I would just cover this, which is the 14th to the 15th. So was the first day that we had no production database problems and things like that. So we decided to schedule a Rails 7 test. And if I remember correctly, there was also a patch release happening at the same time. Not entirely sure. So what happened is that when we do a patch release now, we clearly see the effect on auto deploy. So the build runner cannot hold the amount of packages that are requested for doing a regular patch release. So something that used to take 80 minutes now takes for 4 to 5 hours. And basically there is everything that is related to tagging things, building omnibus packages start failing. Not that it really fails, it just timeouts, right? So when we do regular auto deploy during this time, we see a lot of failures like packager is still running. And so you just have to figure out, rerun, wait, and all those things accumulate. Then here we have this problem that during Jenny shifts when there was a QA failure due to a feature flag, something like this. But it took 5 hours. And then we land in APAC time. So nothing happens, right? And things start going down again in EMEA morning. The interesting thing of this, though, so the good thing of this problem was that we were testing a Rails 7 package running through production. And so what was supposed to be a 2-hour test ended up being a 22-hour test because it was the only package that we managed to deploy. So yeah, this was the highlights of this. And yeah, that's it. Again, we see here, I think, the same thing. When things start going up, we were doing another patch release, I think was on the 16th. So it's things start failing. Your attention is put elsewhere because you have to keep the patch release process running. And the net effect is that we are not deploying as much as we want. Same thing. I mean, it's visible here, but this is not the thing that I wanted to show. It's this one. So that's the number of deployments. And this ties back to my idea of experimenting with tagging from head. So if we look at the past month, so this is basically everything we've been doing in the 16.1. We haven't released that much. We haven't promoted that much. 4, 1, 4, 4, and then we go down to 1. So this is the peak is 5 all over the month. No more than 5 deployments a day. Now, if we just go here, 7, 7, 8, 7, basically it's double, 6. I think this is the lowest peak is 4. So our highest peak is the lowest peak of the previous shift. And this is why I was saying, I've been producing much more packages than the one that I was able to deploy in this milestone. Then even if half of them were just taken from a broken master, I would still have had more packages to promote than the one that I was able to. Does it make sense? So this is why I was thinking, right? I hope this is just unfortunate month. We have been doing, there is the PG-14 upgrades, we got incidents, there's a lot of things that happened. But yeah, it's still a fact, right? So we only deployed once 5 package and all over the time, no more than 4. So that's the thing. And to the deployment blockers, this is, I've just did a first pass on this today on the things that I could figure out. So this is still estimate numbers, not the final one. But basically with 6 production blocker, we have been counting 30 hours, which is quite a lot. And yeah, and then this is interesting as well. So because we are doing many patch releases, there are also those things that are not affecting directly the blocking the environments, but still we've spent time trying to figure out why those stable branches were not running or something else was just not working, right? So that's all, I think. Yep, question?
just a comment, particularly for you, Skarbek, coming in, and Ahmad, hopefully is going to watch this recording, just that we are working on a sort of an alternative or an updated release plan to combine security and patch releases together. One of the big motivators for that is to cut back on patch releases. So twofold motivation for that. One is from our side, they're a lot of work, and actually, that's not a great use of our time to be putting out lots and lots of patch releases with small numbers of changes. But also we're hearing from customers, they don't like having lots and lots of packages being put out that they have to keep on upgrading. So we're going to try and pull these together, but it's I want people to kind of know that that is the direction we're heading in, because if you see opportunities when you're a release manager to push a patch release out a bit in the hope of combining it with something else, or doing something that reduces the overall number of packages, then that's probably a good way to go.
Just on this, I was looking at the numbers on the dashboard. In the last 30 days, we have been issuing 6 regular patches, 4 security patches.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge numbers. So the general guideline from York is that we should be putting out 3 patches, like 3 releases, but like monthly plus 3 a month. So yeah, we're well over, and I know we're getting lots of requests and we're trying to figure out how to handle those, but it's a huge amount of work for sure.
But that guideline is 3 for an entire minor release, or is that 3 just in general? Or
so it's like 1 release a week.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it falls that way like neatly, but it doesn't have to be. It's generally 1 monthly 3 patch is the general guidelines, where a patch is security plus bugs.
But then we have our backport policy where we maintain upwards of 3 versions. So do we keep doing upwards of 3 releases for a given minor? Because then that lands us with roughly 9 packages over the course of 3 months.
So only for the security stuff, but yeah, you're right. So for like a security release, you're thinking out like 1. I know we count that as 3, but yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Any other questions, comments around the release manager data? No, awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Alessio. I also just remembered I forgot to share, just quickly mention on point 4. Earlier, I merged a change to add a new step onto this change request template. And this actually hopefully is helpful for everyone. It was driven by the fact that we don't have Graham on release management at the moment. So reliability engineers were getting a bit stuck where there's a step on the change request template that says, before you start your change, coordinate with the release managers. There wasn't always a release manager if you're in APAC, but it also made me realize as I was thinking about this and chatting with it, reliability, that the way the current template was set up was actually meant it was always quite reactionary for us, because the first point that release managers were brought into these things was when you're ready to start, ping the release managers, which is like not always great from our point of view. So what I did to cover these things is I basically flipped it up a bit so that in the approval stage, there is a step now which says coordinate with the release managers and basically figure out a plan. And what I'm expecting that will look like is, for the intended use case that this change came about from, is if somebody reaches out and says, I want to make this change during APAC hours, probably doesn't really matter for our point of view. You may want to give guidance on, please don't start before this time, or please make sure you're finished before this time for America and EMEA release manager times. But we should also at that point tell them, like, there is no release manager in APAC. You're good to start whenever you're ready within this window, so they're not waiting on us. But the other thing we can use it for is if you have release plans and you suddenly get a ping, which is like, hey, on Tuesday, I'm planning to take staging out for 4 hours, etc., whatever the plan is. Hopefully it gives you some advance warning that you can work with that person and be like, actually, not super great based on release plans. What other options have we got? So hopefully that will cut down a bit on some of the reactive CRs as well. any questions or comments? No. Okay, great. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up on the recording? I'll stop the recording.